Hello, family. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The morning sun spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, gilding the marble floors in golden light. Regina stood in the kitchen, her silk robe tied loosely as she plated up a warm breakfast, avocado toast, scrambled eggs with herbs, and a pot of hibiscus tea gently steaming beside it. Everything looked perfect, the kind of care only someone deeply devoted would give. But when Sam strolled in, already dressed in a crisp navy suit, he barely glanced at the meal. "I'll grab something on the way," he muttered, checking his watch and reaching for his keys. Regina's eyes followed him, a soft, "You have a long day," escaping her lips like a fragile leaf in wind. Back-to-back meetings. "Don't wait up," he replied. And just like that, the door closed behind him, leaving Regina with the silence of expensive furniture and unanswered love. Later that morning, Annette breezed in, hugging her older sister with warm arms and a curious glance. "Wow, breakfast for two again?" she teased before her expression softened. "He didn't eat, did he?" Regina forced a smile, brushing a curl from her face. "He's busy, you know, Sam." But Annette saw more. She saw the way Regina glanced at the untouched teacup, the way her fingers lingered on the back of the chair Sam never sat in anymore. As they moved to the balcony, Annette leaned against the railing. "You two used to laugh right here," she whispered. Regina exhaled. People change. Annette studied her sister's profile, still regal, still poised, but now shadowed by something unspoken. "Or people just show who they've always been," she replied gently. Regina didn't respond. She just looked out over the city, holding her teacup like armor. The morning was perfect, but it ached. The penthouse grew quieter with each passing day, but it wasn't the comforting silence Regina once cherished when designing. It had turned hollow, like the echo of a voice that had long stopped speaking. She moved through the rooms like a ghost in her own life, dusting a picture frame here, straightening a cushion there, small acts of control in a world slipping out of her hands. Her fingers brushed over a credenza drawer she rarely opened, but today something nudged her to pull. Inside, nestled among business receipts and warranty cards, was a small velvet box. Her heart skipped. Slowly, she opened it to reveal a stunning diamond bracelet, emerald cut, elegant, expensive. But there was no note, no memory of a moment it was given. Regina stared at it, her breath tightening. She never received this. She never wore this. And yet, it was hidden in her home among his things. Later that night, she waited in the living room, bracelet on the table like an accusation. When Sam returned, his jacket slung casually over his shoulder, he stopped short. "Where did you find that?" he asked, too quickly. Regina didn't move. "That's what I was hoping you'd tell me." Sam scratched the back of his neck, his tone immediately defensive. "It was meant for a client's wife. A thank you gift. I forgot it there, I guess." Regina's eyes narrowed. "And the client's wife shares your taste in velvet boxes and hiding places?" Sam shrugged, walking past her. "You're reading too much into everything again, Regina." She didn't argue. She simply picked up the bracelet and placed it back in the box. "You forget too much, Sam, but I never do." She walked away, not because she didn't want to fight, but because she was starting to understand the war wasn't hers to lose anymore. It was his to answer for. By Friday morning, the usual tension in the air had thickened. Sam zipped up his duffel bag with mechanical movements, while Regina leaned against the doorframe, arms folded loosely, expression unreadable. "Going somewhere?" she asked. Sam didn't look up. "Quick weekend trip. Business. Lagos Marina." Regina tilted her head slightly. Didn't see it on the calendar. Sam finally met her gaze. "It came up last minute. You know how deals work." She smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "Deals used to involve me." Sam forced a chuckle. "You've got your design firm, Reg. I don't ask about your business trips." But she hadn't taken one in over a year, and he knew that. Regina walked him to the elevator, not saying much. As he stepped inside, he kissed her cheek, light, automatic, as if remembering too late. She watched the doors close, her reflection briefly merging with his. As soon as he left, she turned and went back to the living room, her steps slow, deliberate. On the table lay a leather-bound planner she had given him last Christmas. She opened it, flipping through the pages. No meetings, no travel notes, but a folded paper tucked inside slipped out, a receipt from a high-end resort in Ikoyi. 1 room, 2 nights. Regina exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. She wasn't angry, at least not in the explosive sense. It was deeper, more surgical, betrayal that sliced in silence. She sat down and stared at the name on the receipt, printed in elegant script. Lady of Grace Dockside Suites. The name stuck in her mind like a splinter she couldn't ignore. Annette's voice rang with a mix of concern and disbelief as she barged into the penthouse with her tablet in hand. Regina, you need to see this. She tossed the device onto the kitchen island. The screen paused on a video thumbnail. Regina pressed play with a curious frown. On screen, a woman with bronze skin, sleek waves, and a crimson 2-piece swimsuit walked gracefully across the deck of a luxury yacht. Her laughter was loud, practiced. Her caption was bolder. Spoiled life. My man spoils me right, Lady of Grace. Regina's breath hitched as her eyes locked onto the name, carved in silver on the yacht's bow, Lady of Grace. Her hand tightened around the tablet. Annette leaned against the counter, eyes scanning her sister's face. Isn't that the name of— Yes, Regina cut in, her voice tight. She replayed the video. Nicole was twirling a champagne flute, calling the yacht her love palace, thanking Sam for another unforgettable weekend. Regina didn't blink. Who is she? Annette asked. Regina whispered, Nicole Dean. She's a lifestyle influencer. Sam mentioned her once. Said she worked with one of his partners. Annette stared, horrified. He let her post this? Is she out of her mind? Regina didn't reply. Her silence grew heavier until she set the tablet down and walked toward the bedroom. I need to make a call, she said softly. And as she disappeared down the hallway, Annette muttered under her breath, I swear if she's parading your boat. She's about to meet the storm, dressed in silence. Regina stood in front of Morris's polished mahogany desk, her hands folded neatly as he scanned the documents she had just handed him. Morris, graying at the temples but still sharp-eyed and precise, looked up slowly and gave a small nod. Yes, Lady of Grace is still under your holding company, Marina Eclipse Ventures. You bought it just before the wedding. Do you not remember? Regina exhaled, a quiet smile brushing her lips. I remember. I just needed to hear it from you. Morris sat back, studying her face. Is this about Sam? She nodded once. I believe he's letting someone else use it. Publicly. Without permission. Morris's eyes narrowed. Do you want to take legal action now? But Regina shook her head. Not yet. I just want everything in order, quietly. I want to see how far he's willing to go. Morris slid a manila envelope across the desk. Here are the original registration documents. And this, he tapped another paper, shows the automatic renewal of ownership under your name last quarter. Regina took it without flinching, her fingers brushing the raised watermark. How many people know I own it? Morris shrugged. Only me, the accountant, and the marina manager. You never announced it. It was your personal asset. The idea was to protect what I built before Sam, she finished. There was a long pause between them. Regina, Morris said more softly, if this becomes public, it could get messy. She rose from her seat, her voice low but firm. I'm not interested in messy. I'm interested in memory. People forget too quickly who gave what. She turned and walked toward the door, her heels clicking softly on the tile. Let them keep parading it. I want them to believe it's theirs until the tide turns. 3 years earlier, Regina and Morris had sat in the same office, though the air had been lighter then, filled with champagne glasses and congratulations. It was the week before her wedding to Sam, and Morris was laying out legal options. You've built your name from scratch, Regina, he had said, sliding over the papers. You've earned every cent. Protect it. It's not distrust, it's strategy. Regina had laughed then, wearing a soft yellow dress, her skin glowing with joy. Sam isn't after my money, Morris. He's not that kind of man. Morris didn't argue. He had known Regina long enough to choose his battles. Just in case, he'd offered. A holding company. No press, no trail, it's a safety net, not a wall. And Regina, still wearing the blush of a bride-to-be, had signed with barely a second thought. She had always been generous, especially with the man she loved. Now, as she poured herself a glass of wine back in her penthouse, The memory felt like a dream with too much light in it. Regina curled up on the couch. The documents Morris gave her spread across the coffee table. She traced her finger over the line that read owner, Regina A. Cole. A strange kind of ache sat in her chest, not quite regret, but something adjacent. I gave him everything without asking who he really was, she whispered to herself. Her phone buzzed beside her. A notification from social media. Nikki the Muse just went live, Lady of Grace party vibes. Regina didn't open it. Instead, she sipped her wine and leaned back. She was no longer shocked, only curious. She needed to know how far they would go. There was something poetic about watching them dance on borrowed ground, unaware the floor was never theirs to begin with. On the deck of the yacht, the music pulsed as Nicole raised a glass of champagne to a crowd of perfectly curated guests, stylists, photographers, influencers, and admirers. "To freedom!" she shouted, tossing her curls back as camera flashes flickered. "To men who know how to spoil a real woman." The guests laughed and cheered. Beside her, Sam smiled lazily, his hand resting on the rail, soaking in the admiration like sun on skin. Nicole leaned in and kissed him, her voice syrupy. "This yacht, babe, it's giving billionaire vibes." Sam chuckled and let her believe it. He hadn't corrected her once in weeks. As far as Nicole was concerned, this yacht was a love letter from Sam to her. She strutted its decks like a queen, filming content for her followers. Every caption read, "My man, my ocean." And they believed her because she believed it too. Back at home, Annette stared at Nicole's newest video on her phone and felt rage rise like bile. "She's turning your life into content," she hissed. But Regina didn't look up from her notebook. "Let her," she replied calmly, drawing a line across a new sketch design. "She's loud now because no one stopped her." Annette frowned. "But it's your name on those documents. You could shut it all down today." Regina nodded. "I could, but she wouldn't learn a thing that way. Let her write her fantasy while the credits still belong to me." The sharpness in her voice startled even Annette, but it was also the first sign that Regina wasn't folding. She was planning. Quietly. And when she was done, there would be no need to raise her voice. Just a single piece of paper, a name, a signature, and silence would do the rest. Regina's phone rang just as she stepped out of a client's home, its screen displaying an unfamiliar number, yet oddly familiar area code. "Mrs. Cole?" the voice said cautiously when she answered. "Yes, speaking." A beat of silence followed, then came a softer, almost nervous tone. "I'm not sure if you remember me. It's David. I was part of the original crew on Lady of Grace when she first launched." Regina's heart slowed. She did remember him, a polite young man who always saluted when she boarded. "I do," she replied evenly. "Why are you calling me David?" He cleared his throat. "Forgive me for the intrusion, ma'am, but I had to ask. Is the yacht still yours?" Regina was silent for a moment. "Why do you ask?" His voice lowered. "Because there's a woman parading around like she owns it, giving us orders, filming every corner, and she even tried to rename the dining hall to Nicole's Lounge." Something didn't sit right. Regina's grip on the phone tightened, but her voice remained composed. "Has Sam ever formally informed you of a transfer of ownership?" David immediately answered, "No, ma'am." "That's the thing. His name isn't even in the systems. You're still listed as the sole registered owner in our dispatch and marina records." Regina nodded slowly. "Thank you for the courage to call. You did the right thing." Before hanging up, David added, "If things escalate, just know the crew remembers who respected us. You." After ending the call, Regina walked to her car and sat behind the wheel, her reflection in the windshield showing a woman no longer questioning her place, but reassessing her silence. The truth was now alive on the very waters Nicole thought she ruled. Regina didn't need to post videos. She had voices who still knew the real owner, and that was more powerful than any hashtag. Later that evening, Regina sat at her desk with her laptop open, scrolling through Nicole's latest posts with a kind of clinical detachment. The yacht had become a backdrop for Nicole's image, sunset dinners, fashion reels, whispered promises over candlelight. Each video drew praise and envy, but all Regina saw was delusion propped up by her generosity. Her eyes narrowed when she paused on one video, Nicole giving a room tour, boasting about custom interiors gifted by Sam. The camera panned across wallpaper Regina had personally designed with a European artisan. No one else knew, but she did. Every tile, every velvet chaise, every gold-rimmed wine glass she had chosen. Nicole was showcasing her taste while dismissing her presence. And yet Regina didn't feel anger. What she felt was a quiet shift inside her. It was no longer pain. It was power looking for its moment. Annette joined her in the study, holding 2 mugs of steaming tea. She placed one beside Regina and asked gently, "What now?" Regina's lips curled at the corner. "I document, I gather, I remember." She lifted a folder beside her labeled assets and agreements. "No more waiting for him to remember what I'm worth." Annette looked at the screen and scoffed. "She's even making merch with the yacht's name." Regina arched a brow. Let the parade get louder." Her fingers tapped gently against her pen. "People notice what's taken from them. But what's never been theirs, when it's reclaimed, it leaves them hollow." Annette leaned back, watching her sister with quiet awe. Regina was no longer breaking. She was sharpening. And when the time came, she wouldn't need to announce her return. She would just arrive with truth in one hand and proof in the other. The following Sunday, the sisters sat on the balcony as the breeze whispered through the city skyline. Annette had barely touched her juice, her eyes fixed on Regina with growing frustration. "Can I just say it?" she snapped. "You gave him too much. Not just the yacht, your loyalty, your name, your silence." Regina didn't flinch. She stirred her tea slowly, her expression unreadable. "I gave what I thought was love," she said. "But love with no respect is charity. And I've stopped donating." Annette sighed, folding her arms. "I'm scared you're waiting too long to act." Regina turned toward her, eyes calm but unyielding. "What's worse than being cheated on publicly is responding prematurely. He built this lie on borrowed confidence. I'll let him get comfortable in it. Then I'll knock." Her tone wasn't bitter, it was surgical. Annette leaned forward, her voice breaking slightly. "Reg, I just don't want you to hurt more than you already have." Regina looked at her sister, softening. "I'm not hurting Nettie, not anymore. I'm watching, I'm learning, and I'm preparing." She reached into her drawer and pulled out a small, worn envelope. Inside it was a photograph. Regina standing at the dock on the day Lady of Grace arrived, her hand resting proudly on the yacht's rail. "This is the day I signed the ownership papers. Before Sam, before the lies." Annette looked at it in stunned silence. "It's always been yours," she whispered. Regina nodded. "And when I take it back, I won't raise my voice. I'll raise my name." The wind swept through the balcony again, but this time it didn't feel like a chill. It felt like a quiet signal that a storm was preparing to turn. Nicole's face lit up every screen that week. A viral photo of her and Sam, hands intertwined as they stepped off Lady of Grace, had been reposted on dozens of gossip blogs. "Power couple goals," one headline read. "From boardroom to oceanfront romance," another gushed. Nicole leaned into it all, curated smiles, coordinated outfits, and captions that made her seem like the muse behind Sam's supposed success. Meanwhile, Regina remained off-grid, her social media pages quiet, filled only with serene interior design photos and soft quotes about growth. To outsiders, she looked like a woman unaware. But inside her penthouse, she scrolled through the posts with calm precision. She wasn't surprised by the optics. She had seen men use illusion to mask their failures before. The only difference now was that Sam had chosen to do it publicly, on a stage she had quietly built. Later that evening, Morris called, concern thick in his voice. "Regina, this is getting louder. Are you sure silence is still your best move?" She sipped her tea, her voice steady. "Let them perform. Crowds clap louder when they believe a lie. The silence I hold isn't ignorance, it's strategy." Morris hesitated. "I just want you to know we can act any time." Regina smiled faintly. "And I will. But timing, Morris. Timing makes truth more devastating." Across the city, Nicole posted a story of Sam feeding her dessert on the deck of the yacht. Her caption read, "He calls me his piece." Regina watched it once, then deleted the notification. She didn't need to save it. When you own the stage, you don't chase the spotlight, you control when the curtains fall. Sam walked into his office and immediately sensed it. The air felt thinner. His assistant barely made eye contact. One of his investors canceled their lunch, and the boardroom, once a space where his voice commanded attention, was filled with unspoken doubt. What Sam failed to see was the slow erosion beneath his feet. The more time he spent curating an image with Nicole, the less he noticed the gaps forming in contracts, the questions rising in meetings, and the financial alerts he casually dismissed. Regina, once his behind-the-scenes stabilizer, had stepped back entirely, and without her quiet corrections and strategic eyes, the cracks widened. His charm had limits, and his confidence, though loud, lacked depth. Later that night, while sipping bourbon on the yacht, Sam ignored yet another missed call from his project manager. Nicole was lounging beside him in a silk robe, scrolling through social media. "People are begging for our skincare collab," she said with a grin. "We should name it after the yacht. It's iconic now." Sam chuckled, distracted. "Sure, why not?" But as Nicole rambled about influencers and yacht-themed packaging, Sam's phone buzzed again, this time from a client threatening to pull a partnership due to unstable deliverables. He silenced it. "They'll calm down," he muttered. Nicole turned to him, pouting. "You're not listening to me." Sam forced a smile. "Sorry, babe. Just tired." What he didn't know was that the foundation beneath him wasn't tired, it was withdrawing. Quietly. Just like the woman he thought he could afford to overlook. It was just past midnight when Regina drove out to the private marina. The night was quiet, save for the occasional hum of boats rocking gently in the water. She walked past the dock hands, head high, the breeze stirring the hem of her coat. When she reached the berth where Lady of Grace floated in all her borrowed glory, her steps slowed. The yacht glowed under soft lighting, music faintly audible from inside. But Regina didn't approach. She simply stood there, eyes locked on the vessel she once viewed as a personal sanctuary. Now it was a stage in someone else's act. She didn't need to knock or announce herself. She was already seen. "Evening, ma'am," came a voice beside her. It was the night guard, older, kind-eyed. He removed his cap respectfully. "Forgive me, but are you Mrs. Cole?" Regina glanced at him, then nodded once. His eyes widened slightly. "We've missed you around here. Still can't believe the story's going around. Folks think she bought the boat." Regina smiled softly. Stories have a way of becoming truth when no one corrects them. The guard looked at her more closely. "You coming aboard?" She shook her head. "Not yet, but soon." She turned to leave, her heels echoing on the dock. "Tell her owner came by. She'll understand what that means soon enough." The guard watched her go, eyes wide with realization. The real storm had just touched the dock, and not a single raindrop had fallen yet. Nicole stood in front of a full-length mirror aboard the yacht, adjusting the neckline of her shimmering rose-gold dress, while her makeup artist added final touches. "He's going to propose," she beamed to her phone, recording yet another clip for her followers. "Tonight feels magical." The table on deck was set with white candles, imported orchids, and hand-folded name cards that read, "Mr. and Future Mrs. Cole." She had arranged everything, without asking Sam. The event was labeled a soft launch dinner, but everyone present, including the hired photographers, knew what Nicole expected. She wasn't waiting for a ring, she had mentally worn it already. Nicole's assistant whispered, "Do you think he'll actually do it tonight?" Nicole smirked. If he knows what's good for his image, he better. Across the water, the marina's assistant manager watched the preparations from the harbor office. He dialed Morris with hesitance. "Sir, the yacht named Lady of Grace is being used for some kind of event." "Should we escalate?" Morris responded calmly. "No, not yet. Just observe. Document everything. The owner has plans of her own." Meanwhile, Sam arrived late, his tie loose, phone buzzing incessantly. "What is all this?" he asked Nicole as he saw the table, the camera crew, the decorative cake that read, "She said yes." Nicole kissed him on the cheek. "I figured we'd make it official, or at least make it look that way." Sam didn't object. He only downed a glass of wine and forced a smile. In Nicole's mind, it was all falling into place. But from the shadows of the marina's edge, someone else was watching too. Someone who had seen enough to let the circus finish its act. The next morning, Regina sat across from Morris in his office, a quiet tension between them as the small monitor flickered to life. "These are from the yacht's central surveillance. The crew uploaded the files last night," Morris explained, inserting the flash drive. "They watched in silence, video clips capturing every detail. Nicole parading in different outfits, Sam pouring wine, guests laughing while referring to it as her boat, and at one point, Nicole recording herself walking into the captain's lounge and saying, "We'll call this Nicole's Corner soon." But it was one clip that made Regina's expression shift, Sam handing Nicole a necklace. "Because you shine brighter than the stars," he had whispered, and she had squealed. Regina didn't blink. She only leaned closer. "Pause it right there," she instructed. The necklace had a pendant Regina herself designed 3 years ago for her husband's birthday. Morris glanced at her. "That's yours, isn't it?" Regina nodded once. "I commissioned it. The clasp is engraved. He never wore it." A long silence followed before Morris asked, "Are you ready to act now?" Regina leaned back, hands folded. "Almost, but not quite. I need one more thing. Final confirmation that everything he parades is built on lies." Morris hesitated. "Regina, this is personal. Are you sure you can stay composed?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned cold. "I don't want revenge, Morris. I want memory. He's rewritten me in her story, and she's uploaded it to the world. I don't need applause. I need truth with receipts." Morris slid a second drive toward her. "This is every angle, every date. Let me know when you want to drop the anchor." Regina picked it up, slipped it in her purse, and stood. "Not just yet. Let them keep sailing. The storm always waits until the sky is clear." Annette paced the length of Regina's living room, her arms flailing in disbelief. "You mean to tell me she's naming parts of the yacht after herself now?" While Sam lets her, Regina remained seated, legs crossed, reviewing blueprints for her next design project. "That's what delusion looks like when no one corrects it," she said without looking up. Annette sank onto the couch beside her, tears brimming. "I don't get it. Why aren't you shouting? Breaking things? Anything?" Regina finally looked up, her eyes soft but unwavering. "Because I'm not trying to win a scene, Nettie. I'm preserving a legacy." Annette choked on a small laugh. "You sound like you're building a museum, not responding to betrayal." Regina smiled faintly. "Maybe I am. The gallery of consequences." Annette reached for the folder Regina had placed on the table. "And this, what is this?" She flipped it open to find screenshots, legal paperwork, date-stamped footage stills, all organized neatly. "This is war, Regina." But Regina shook her head. "No, this is clarity. And clarity doesn't scream, it documents." Annette wiped her eyes, her voice cracking. "I just want to see you fight for yourself, not wait for perfect timing." Regina leaned closer and placed her hand on her sister's. "You think I'm not fighting, but I am. Every calm day is preparation. Every quiet night is a gathering of thunder. They think I'm sleeping while they dance, but I'm studying the rhythm. And when I move, one blow will end the song." Annette stared at her sister, both stunned and proud. Regina had always been composed, but now she was something more, strategic, serene, and entirely unstoppable. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Regina stepped into the quiet legal office on the 3rd floor of a nondescript building tucked off the Marina Boulevard. Her heels clicked softly against the tiled floor, echoing through the reception as if announcing something final. Morris was already waiting inside the boardroom, flanked by 2 junior associates and a stack of documents on the polished table. "All standard procedure," he said as she took her seat. "We'll be transferring Lady of Grace from the holding company directly to your personal name. Full visibility, no layers, no veils." Regina read through the pages carefully before lifting her pen and signing with deliberate grace. "This is no longer about discretion," she murmured. "It's about ownership, loud and documented." Morris handed her the final form. "Once this is filed, the Marina will be authorized to act on your behalf immediately." As Regina placed her signature on the last page, she felt a calmness wrap around her, not triumph, but resolution. No trumpets blared, no audience clapped. And yet the moment felt seismic. "Effective immediately?" she asked. Morris nodded. "Within the next 72 hours, the title will reflect in every system tied to maritime registry and the Marina's gate access. No one boards that yacht without your consent." She smiled faintly, rising to her feet. "Then let's make sure the people parading the loudest hear the silence coming for them." As she walked to the exit, the junior associates exchanged quiet glances. They had expected tears or fury, What they witnessed instead was a woman who didn't just walk in power. She documented it. And as the door closed behind her, Regina's name moved from the shadows of a holding company to the forefront of everything Sam and Nicole were flaunting as their fantasy. Nicole sat across from a popular lifestyle podcaster in a waterfront cafe, microphone clipped to her dress, sunglasses perched confidently on her nose. "Tell us, Nicole," the host began, "how does it feel to be living the dream on Lady of Grace?" Nicole beamed. "Honestly, surreal. It's like waking up in a luxury love story every day. Sam is just incredible." She laughed, then added, "And this yacht? It's more than just a boat. It's the beginning of our empire." The interviewer nodded eagerly. "Do you see marriage in the picture?" Nicole winked. "Let's just say the ring doesn't matter when you're already wearing the lifestyle." Her followers flooded the comment sections with heart emojis and to Yacht Queen hashtags. What they didn't know was that every quote she gave was building the tower from which she'd soon fall. Back in her car, Nicole checked her analytics and grinned. "My engagement's up 72%, she told her manager. "Let's do a capsule launch, Grace on the water." Her manager hesitated. "You sure the yacht's legally yours to brand?" Nicole scoffed. "Sam's name is good enough. He said she barely used it." Across town, Regina watched the interview on mute, seated at her home studio, the footage looping. "She's not just bold," Annette said beside her. "She's betting on your silence." Regina didn't respond. She took a sticky note and wrote one word: trademark. Morris had already begun the paperwork to register Lady of Grace as Regina's exclusive trademark, not just as a vessel, but as a brand. "Let her print her t-shirts," Regina finally said. "By next week, every sale will come with a cease and desist." The ship Nicole used to build a brand was already charted, just not in her name. Sam arrived home late, his tie loose and brows furrowed from a day of frantic investor calls. Regina was seated in the living room, a design portfolio open on her lap and soft jazz playing in the background. "You're still up?" he asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded without looking at him. "You have something you need me to sign?" His eyes flickered in surprise. "Actually, yes." He pulled a single document from his briefcase and walked over. "Just a routine authorization. Minor restructure involving one of our shared holdings." Regina took the paper, skimmed the opening lines, and flipped to the last page. "You've been moving assets again?" Sam smiled faintly. "Just cleaning up, nothing drastic." She stared at his face a moment longer before picking up her pen and signing with a flourish. "There, neat and quick." As he left the room, Regina turned to her folder and pulled out the matching version of the document, one she had requested quietly through Morris days earlier. It wasn't a restructuring form. It was a disguised asset diversion, if left unaddressed, would have placed the yacht's docking rights in Sam's name. "He's still playing chess with checkers," she whispered to herself. Annette walked in moments later and saw the copy in her sister's hand. "Did you sign?" she asked. Regina handed her both papers. "I signed it knowing he was gambling, but I already flipped the board." Annette shook her head in awe. "You knew he'd try something." Regina's gaze sharpened. "I was hoping he would. Now, when the eviction happens, there will be no doubt he crossed a line with full intention, and I'll respond with full authority." The final mask had fallen. Sam wasn't confused, he was calculated. But now, so was she. At 8 a.m. sharp, Regina received an official email from the Marina Authority. Subject line: confirmation of exclusive ownership and action approval. She opened the message slowly, her breath steady. The body of the email contained formal notice that full control of Lady of Grace had been reassigned to her, the directive allowing immediate removal of unauthorized individuals. Attached was a final document, a formal eviction letter addressed to Sam, any current occupant or affiliate aboard the vessel. Regina printed the letter, folded it carefully, and placed it in an envelope. She didn't need to write a message. Her name at the top was message enough. By noon, a trusted courier had delivered it to the dockmaster's office with one clear instruction: execute the order at dawn. Meanwhile, Nicole and Sam were filming a promo video on the deck, both dressed in white linen. The camera captured everything: the yacht, the views, the illusion. "This is the kind of life every woman deserves," Nicole said confidently to her followers. Sam nodded along, though his phone buzzed in his pocket with increasing frequency. When he finally glanced at it, his face tightened. "The marina just flagged our access card," he muttered. "Said something about an ownership update." Nicole laughed. "Probably a glitch. I'll call them." But no one answered. Inside the dockmaster's office, the staff had been briefed not to respond to inquiries from either party. Only Regina's name opened the gate now. That night, she sat by her window, watching the city lights twinkle. She wasn't preparing a confrontation. She had issued a boundary. The sea would carry the rest. The sun was brilliant over the marina the next morning, casting golden light across the water. Nicole stepped onto the yacht's upper deck in a silk wrap dress, her hair in loose waves and her smile wide. "Today is all about celebrating abundance," she announced into her phone. "We'll be having brunch on the ocean, just me, my king, and a few of our closest friends." Inside, a catered spread was being laid out: oysters, mimosas, fruit towers, all arranged for aesthetics and applause. Nicole had even hired a drone team to film from above. As her guests arrived, laughter and selfies filled the air. Sam moved about uneasily, checking his phone, trying to ignore the marina guards pacing near the gate. Nicole began her live stream just as the guests were seated. "We're out here living in grace," she cooed, raising her glass. Literally. Just then the mood shifted. The soft hum of a boat engine drew close. A sleek marina patrol vessel pulled alongside Lady of Grace, its sirens briefly chirping to signal formality. Two uniformed officers stepped onto the deck with precision and calm. Nicole's smile faltered as the camera continued to roll. "Good morning," one officer announced, pulling out a clipboard. "We're here to execute an official removal of all unauthorized occupants. This yacht is the registered property of Mrs. Regina A. Cole. You are trespassing." Gasps rippled across the deck. Cole froze. Sam dropped his fork. The camera caught everything: the arrival, the names, the unraveling. The brunch had just become a reckoning. The officer's voice, firm and deliberate, pierced through the stunned silence on the yacht. "You are instructed to gather your belongings and vacate the vessel immediately. Refusal will result in further legal action." Nicole blinked, as if struggling to process what she had heard. "Wait, this is a mistake," she said quickly, rising to her feet. "This yacht was given to me. I have videos, promotions. This is our yacht." She gestured around desperately as the guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Sam stood up slowly, moving toward the officer. "This is my wife's yacht," the officer clarified, "and she has authorized this order. You've been in violation of maritime property laws for several weeks." Sam's face turned pale. Nicole's jaw dropped. "Wife?" she echoed. One of the crew members, David, appeared beside the officer and held up a folder. "These are the original purchase records. Regina's name is on every one." Nicole turned to Sam, rage rising. "You said it was yours. You let me market it. Sell merch off it. You said she didn't care." Sam couldn't speak. He looked at the guards, at the blinking live stream still recording from Nicole's phone, and then at the guests who were now backing away awkwardly. "You both need to disembark now," the officer repeated. A silence fell across the deck. Nicole grabbed her bag, trembling, and hissed under her breath, "She set us up." Sam glanced at the dock, and standing calmly at a distance, not saying a word, was Regina, her sunglasses on, her hands folded, her presence unmistakable. She hadn't said a thing. She didn't have to. The sea had answered for her. Nicole lunged toward her phone, but it was too late. Her live stream had captured every word: the officers, the revelation, the stunned silence that followed. In a panic, she fumbled with the screen, finally managing to hit end live. A few guests had already slipped away quietly, not wanting their faces linked to the debacle. Others looked on in disbelief. The influencer who once commanded attention was now shrinking beneath its weight. Sam remained frozen beside the table, eyes darting between Nicole and the approaching officers. "You don't understand," Nicole stammered, her voice cracking. "I've built an entire brand off this yacht. We're planning a product launch next week." The officer remained unmoved. "That's between you and your legal team, ma'am. But as of this morning, you no longer have clearance to be here." As Nicole stumbled toward the interior cabin to collect her things, she passed a large mirror affixed near the stairwell. She caught her reflection, mascara smudged, confidence drained. She knew, she whispered bitterly. She knew this whole time. Upstairs, Sam finally found his voice. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. One of the guards looked at him flatly. No, sir, it wasn't supposed to happen at all. David, the former crew member loyal to Regina, stood silently at the edge of the deck, arms folded. Loyalty lasts longer than lies, he muttered to no one in particular. A marina official quietly handed Nicole a printed notice of trespass and trademark infringement. Her fingers shook as she took it. She didn't just want to expose us, she muttered. She wanted us to feel it. And Regina, watching from afar, had said nothing. She hadn't needed to. Her truth had arrived in uniform, not in words. Regina stood still at the far end of the dock, her white linen dress fluttering softly in the breeze. Her sunglasses masked her eyes, but her posture was unmistakably poised. Guests whispered and turned, some pointing subtly. The image was cinematic, like the closing scene of a drama where the villain isn't shouted at, but simply outlived. Nicole descended from the yacht, head low, lips trembling. Sam followed a few steps behind, a hollow look in his eyes. For a moment, their eyes met Regina's. She didn't move. She didn't smirk. She didn't blink. Her silence cut deeper than confrontation. One of the guests murmured, "That's her, the real owner." Another replied, "She never said a word." And yet, the message had landed louder than any outburst could have. Nicole walked past her, heels tapping against the wooden dock, each step heavier than the last. Sam hesitated, as if about to speak. But Regina simply turned slightly, her profile to him now, a gesture of dismissal without words. The moment ended with him walking away, not as a man rejected, but as one dethroned. A female journalist near the gate, who had been recording the event from a distance, whispered to her cameraman, "Frame her silhouette, don't zoom. Let the viewers feel the distance between her and them." Regina finally stepped forward, only to receive a folder from the marina officer. "All property keys and control rights are now fully reverted to you, ma'am." She accepted it with a nod and continued walking onto Lady of Grace for the first time in months, without noise, without drama. Just rightful return. The sea, stirred moments ago by confusion, seemed to calm as her foot touched the deck. Inside the main lounge of the yacht, Regina took a long, slow walk through every room. Her fingers trailed across marble counters, familiar rugs, the polished dining table she once dined at with quiet pride. Each piece of furniture whispered a memory, and yet none of them hurt anymore. What she found wasn't grief. It was dignity. The crew member approached quietly. "Welcome back, ma'am," he said. Regina turned and gave him a soft smile. "Thank you. I never truly left." The man nodded with a knowing look. Moments later, a representative from the marina entered and asked politely if she wanted to press criminal charges. Regina paused. "No, let them keep their freedom. Their shame will find them louder than the law ever could." Outside, Nicole sat on a bench, mascara streaked, clutching her phone but refusing to look at it. "They're already editing the clips," her assistant whispered. "It's everywhere." Sam stood beside her in silence, no longer trying to fix anything. He knew the damage wasn't just public. It was personal, irreversible. "She planned this," Nicole muttered. "She watched us walk right into it." Sam looked ahead, jaw tight. "She gave us rope, and we danced with it." Meanwhile, Regina poured herself a glass of wine on the deck, the city skyline stretching in the distance. She didn't toast. She didn't weep. She simply stood still and breathed. Annette called moments later. "How do you feel?" Regina answered without hesitation. "Like I just walked back into my name." And for the first time in years, her name felt whole again. Within hours of the eviction, social media turned into a battlefield. Clips of the live stream had been captured and reposted by viewers around the world. One particularly brutal edit began with Nicole's smiling toast and ended with the officer's words, "You are trespassing." The comment sections were merciless. Influencers who once admired her now distanced themselves. "Did she seriously just pretend to own another woman's yacht?" one post read. Sponsors began pulling out of pending collaborations, issuing silent, no comments to media inquiries. Nicole stayed inside her condo with curtains drawn, bombarded by emails and messages she refused to open. Her assistant knocked gently on her door. "You have to release a statement, Nicole. It's only getting worse." Nicole buried her face in her hands. How do you explain pretending to be a queen on a throne that never belonged to you? Across town, Sam sat in a boardroom filled with stares that felt more like verdicts. His lead investor leaned forward and slid a folder across the table. We trusted you, Sam. But if you can't differentiate between public image and property theft, we can't attach our money to your name. Sam swallowed hard, flipping the folder open to find termination clauses and withdrawal notices. This is excessive, he muttered. The investor shook his head. This is business, and you let yours become a circus. When he returned to his office, the receptionist wouldn't meet his eyes. His email inbox was flooded with cancellations. His own silence, once used to manipulate, had come back cloaked in Regina's precision. This wasn't revenge, it was accountability dressed in paperwork and reputation. And now both he and Nicole stood on the same sinking platform. Days later, Regina stood in her studio, reviewing design samples beneath soft lighting. She wore a charcoal jumpsuit, simple gold earrings, and a calm that had grown permanent. A gentle knock broke her focus. She turned, and there stood Sam, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. I was hoping you'd be here, he said. Regina didn't flinch. And I was hoping you wouldn't come. He offered a small nod. I owe you more than an apology. She raised an eyebrow. Start with honesty, if that's still something you're capable of. He walked further in, but kept his distance. I lost everything, Reg. My business, my face in this city. I never imagined it would end this way. Regina leaned against the table, arms crossed. You imagined enough to steal. You imagined enough to lie. Sam exhaled, the weight of his defeat finally audible in his breath. You could have ruined me completely, press, interviews, lawsuits. But you didn't. Regina walked over to her shelf and retrieved a thick envelope. This is everything I could have filed. Every document, every signature, every clip. But I didn't need to make noise. I only needed the truth to breathe. Sam looked at the envelope, but she didn't offer it to him. She set it aside. I didn't spare you for you. Did it for myself. I never wanted to carry your name through the mud. You did that on your own. Sam looked at her, almost pleading. Do you hate me? Regina met his eyes for the first time in years. No, I outgrew you. She turned back to her samples. Please close the door on your way out. Nicole stood alone on her now barren condo balcony, a cup of untouched tea cooling in her hand. Her phone lay face down on the table, notifications long silenced. The world outside had moved on, but inside, she was suspended in a truth she never saw coming. She stared at the city skyline, recalling the first night she stepped onto Lady of Grace, the way she twirled like it was her stage. All the content, the followers, the admiration, it had been a borrowed costume, a role played on a stage she never built. Her manager had sent her a list of damage control strategies. Start a new brand, they'd said. Reframe the narrative. But Nicole couldn't even look in the mirror. Because the truth didn't need framing, it was already posted. She opened her laptop and began to write, not for her followers, not for PR, but for herself. The title at the top of the blank document read, The Woman Who Knew. As the words poured out, they weren't defensive. They were confessions. I saw the yacht before I saw the woman who built it. I confused access with entitlement. I mistook silence for absence. She paused, fingers trembling. For the first time, Nicole wasn't trying to go viral. She was simply acknowledging what she ignored. The blog would remain unpublished, tucked away in drafts, like a diary entry she didn't have the courage to show the world. Because what haunted her most wasn't that she lost the yacht. It was that she never stood a chance against a woman who didn't have to shout to be heard. The sun hung low over the water as Lady of Grace prepared to depart for her first official private event since Regina reclaimed it. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, polished uniforms, and purposeful hands making final checks. On board, the atmosphere was tranquil and intentional. No camera flashes, no influencers, just women of varying ages dressed in linen and soft pastels. They were survivors, business owners, creators, each personally invited by Regina. As she stood near the helm, dressed in a deep emerald caftan and barefoot on the teakwood deck, she watched them take in the ocean breeze with the wonder it deserved. There were no speeches scheduled, no formalities, just space. Space to breathe, space to heal. And above the main salon door, the original nameplate gleamed once again, untouched, Lady of Grace. Annette joined her at the rail, sipping on a glass of mango hibiscus. "You turned a stage into sanctuary," she murmured. Regina smiled without turning. "It was never meant to be a spectacle, Nettie. It was meant to carry peace." Down below, soft music played, nothing trending, just timeless melodies that invited presence. One of the women approached Regina with quiet reverence. "I just wanted to thank you," she said, "for creating this space, not just today, but with your story. You reminded me not to shout for what already belongs to me." Regina gently squeezed the woman's hand. "We don't always have to reclaim it with noise. Sometimes we reclaim it by returning whole." The yacht began to drift from the dock, its sails catching the wind with ease. And as the horizon widened ahead, Regina let the past remain on shore, no bitterness, only clarity. Dusk wrapped the marina in gold as Lady of Grace returned from the water. After everyone had disembarked, Regina remained on the deck alone. The breeze played with the ends of her wrap as she stood barefoot, eyes fixed on the distant skyline. It was quiet now, not the silence of loss, but the fullness of peace. She walked slowly toward the bow, trailing her fingers along the railing. Each step was a reminder of everything she had withstood. Not just betrayal, but erasure. Not just humiliation, but invasion. And yet she stood, not broken, not bitter, but whole. The yacht hadn't just returned to her possession, it had become the proof that stillness doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy. Annette appeared moments later, settling into one of the cushioned seats nearby. She watched her sister in awe, then asked softly, "Do you regret being quiet all that time?" Regina turned, the dying light dancing against her cheekbones. Her eyes were steady, unwavering. "No," she replied, "because silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when to observe, when to move, and when to let truth walk in uninvited." They both gazed at the horizon, a soft hum of distant waves their only companion. There were no claps, no headlines. Just two women on a yacht reclaimed not just in law, but in dignity. And as night fell over the city, Regina whispered something to herself, a private vow meant for no one else. "Let them parade. I'll always own the tide." Here's the Bible verse, Proverbs 19, verse 21, NIV. "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." This verse captures the essence of Regina's silent strength. Despite the schemes and appearances others built around her, it was purpose and truth that ultimately rose above pretenses and performances. Moral of the story: true power doesn't need noise. It only needs clarity, patience, and truth. In a world that often rewards flash over substance, this story reminds us that silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. When dignity is preserved and truth is documented, not shouted, justice unfolds on its own timeline. Never trade your self-worth for temporary applause, and never fear walking away quietly, especially when the truth walks beside you. That's the end of the story. What did you learn from this story? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notification so that you'll be notified whenever we drop our next videos. Also, share this video to someone who might be interested. Thank you so much